It was a morning like any other. I woke to the sound of Pidgeys outside my window, and as I took a deep breath in, I looked at the letter my father left me before he disappeared. "Make me proud," it read. "Catch all 150 Pokémon in Kanto and find the elusive shiny Pokémon. Defeat the Elite Four and become a region champion, but more importantly, find a partner to guide you. Train it to level 100 and reach its maximum potential. I bet you could do it all in a day." He was obviously joking, but I was going to prove him right. I set my watch to 24 hours and set out. Seems Professor Oak was the reason the Pidgeys were so loud this morning. As I approached him, I remembered he'd offered to give me a Pokémon to start my journey. Today was the day. We heard a rustle in the bushes, and just like that, a flash appeared. It was a Pokémon. It wasn't Squirtle or Bulbasaur, not even Charmander. This was an Eevee. Eevee weren't indigenous to this part of Kanto, but Professor Oak handed me a Pokeball and said, "You wanted a Pokémon? Here's your chance." I felt my hand shaking. I'd never thrown a Pokeball before, but there was something about this Eevee, a look in its eyes. It's like it wanted to be caught. I threw the Pokeball, and immediately stars appeared. The catch was successful. I'd caught my first Pokemon, and it was an Eevee. I planned to take a Charmander and beat the league with a Charizard. Something about this felt right. Professor Oak asked me to collect a parcel from the next town along in exchange for the Pokeball, and as I collected it and returned it to him, Eevee climbed on my shoulder. We'd already formed a bond in the little time we spent together, and any thoughts of a partner Charizard were long gone in my mind. My childhood friend Tragic had also been promised a partner Pokemon today, and his was a Pikachu. Seems neither of us were going down the conventional path. Eevee launched himself from my shoulder, and with a bloodlust in his eyes, he destroyed the Pikachu. It seems Tragic wanted a friendly match, but we don't have time for that. I could see the shock in his face, but I knew what we had to do. We moved on and caught a few more Pokemon for the team, just in case Eevee wasn't enough. Eevee wasn't strong yet. We needed some more team members to support our journey. I'd heard Nidoking was an extremely powerful Pokemon, and I knew I could get a Moonstone in Mount Moon, so I caught myself a Nidoran. As we made our way through Viridian Forest, Eevee tore through the bug catchers and other trainers, and we even managed to catch ourselves a Pikachu. This would come in handy for Misty's gym later, but before that, we've got Brock to worry about. We don't have any super effective moves, but after training Eevee up, he learnt Double Kick. We made our way over to the gym with our new move, and Brock was confident. I saw the Eevee on my hat and scoffed. A normal type against my rocks, you don't stand a chance. This was a big mistake. He'd wound Eevee up now, and with a double kick, he took the Geodude down with ease. Brock wasn't so confident anymore. He sent in his big guns next, the Onix. You could tell Eevee was anxious, but he wasn't going to give up. This thing was 10 times his size, and every time he kicked him, it did barely any damage. On top of that, Onix kept throwing boulders at him. Eevee's health plummeted all the way to the red, and with a final kick, he took down the Onix. I could tell Brock was impressed. He'd never seen an Eevee act like that before. He gave me my badge, and as I checked my watch, we were only half an hour in. Outside, a guy named Blue showed us his great balls. Some people think it morally wrong to buy and sell Pokemon, but when this shady dude in the Pokemon Center offered me a Magikarp, I knew he didn't understand the potential held in that Pokeball. Magikarp evolves into Gyarados, and that'll be really useful later. We made our way through Mount Moon, catching as many Pokemon as we can. After all, we need to work on finishing the Pokédex at the same time. My dad left when I was very young, and I never learnt to throw properly. But after a few attempts, we caught a Geodude. We found a Moonstone to use on Nidoran later, and a few of our Pokemon from Viridian Forest decided to evolve. We got a Beedrill and a Butterfree. These aren't going to be of great use, but they will fill the Pokédex. Eevee was weirded out by this guy standing near some fossils, but after we defeated him, he offered for us to take one of them. I didn't know which one to take at the time, so I took the dome fossil. To be completely honest, I just wanted to get away from this weirdo. He was creeping me out a little bit. At the end of the tunnel, I could see a faint glimpse of blue and red. I didn't quite know what it was, and as I approached, I realised this was Team Rocket, local criminals I've been warned about. And before I had a chance to react, they threw their Pokeballs, and it was time to battle. They weren't playing fair as they both sent their Pokemon out at the same time. Eevee jumped from my shoulder, and I sent Nidoran in as well. I need Nidoran to get stronger and evolve before I can use the Moonstone on him. This is the perfect time for training. As Eevee launched attack after attack, Nidoran finished off the coughing. And as the Ekans coiled back in fear, Nidoran launched his final attack. He took the Ekans out as well. It seems the rumours were true. Even as a Nidoran, he's strong. We take a minute to see the sights in Cerulean City, and as I go to the Pokemon Center to heal my team, we meet a strange man. He offers to teach Eevee some moves, the Fire-type move, Electric and Water. I didn't know Eevee could learn any of these moves. We're not going to say no to a Power Boost, and an Electric-type move is going to be very useful against Misty. As we enter the Cerulean Gym, it seems Misty understands that Eevee's powerful. She doesn't rely on brute strength like Brock did, and I don't know what to expect from this trainer. She sends in her Psyduck first, an unsuspecting Pokemon, but I know its Water-type moves are strong. We have to be careful with this one. Eevee uses his new move, Buzzy Buzz, and after 2 moves, he takes down the Psyduck, but not before taking heavy damage. We gotta be careful against our next Pokemon, as we're already quite low now. Our other team members aren't trained up quite as much as Eevee, and if Eevee goes down, this could be dangerous. She goes for Buzzy Buzz again, and after a few hits, this Starmie takes Eevee out. We send in our Pidgey next, a Pokemon we caught on Route 1. It's been training with us, but we haven't used it very much. This is its first sight of battle, and after a quick attack doesn't quite finish off the Starmie, one Scald is enough to break the Pidgey. Next up, we're going to send in our reliable Nidoran. I know Nidoran can finish this Starmie off, so I go for a double kick. Starmie outspeeds, and a powerful Scald is enough to take Nidoran down before he can even attack. This is really not good. But in that moment I remember, it's not just electric moves that are good against water. I send in a Paris that we caught at Mount Moon, since it has the grass move Absorb. Psywave hits Paris, and I'm really afraid it's going to take him down, but he hangs on with just 8 HP. Absorb hits the Starmie, and finally takes it down. We've beat Misty, but this was a wake-up call. We're not strong enough. We need to train more before we take on any more gym leaders, but our time's ticking. Misty thanks us for a great battle and hands us the Cascade badge. That's 2 out of 8, and me and Eevee move on. We finally evolve Nidoran into Nidorino, and we use the Moonstone we got earlier to evolve it into the Nidoking. This is going to be a huge power boost to the team. Above Cerulean City, we wind our way through the trainers, and we find a house. It seems there's a talking Pokemon inside. It's actually a human that's been transformed into a Pokemon. After we help him return to his original body, he gives us the SSN ticket. We evolve Pidgey into Pidgeotto, and on our way back to Cerulean City, this guy entrusts us with his Charmander. He says it needs a stronger trainer, and since we've caught more than 50 Pokemon, he's happy for us to take it. We also meet a lady in town who tells us that her Bulbasaur needs a new trainer too, and after seeing how many Pokemon we've caught, she's happy for us to take that too. This is great for our Pokédex, and as we move on, we decide to catch a few more Pokemon. The Pokédex is coming along quite nicely, and we've caught pretty much everything we can up to this point. As we make our way to the next city, we find a lady sitting on the bench. She asks us which Pokemon we prefer, Growlithe or Meowth. We told her we don't have time for her silly questions, and after seeing how many Meowth we caught earlier when training, she decides we're strong enough. She offers us an Arcanine, and we graciously accept. In the next route we find a Chansey, a great Pokemon for training, as it gives us a huge amount of experience every time we catch one. We also run into a police officer who tells us this Squirtle's been causing trouble in town, and when she sees what a powerful trainer we are, she thinks we can whip it into shape. We accept the Squirtle and move on to the SSN. We check our watch outside. 2 hours and 24 minutes. We're making great time. We don't go into anyone else's room on the boat, since that would be kind of a weird thing to do, and as we get to the other end, we run into Tragic. He tells us that the captain's going to teach Eevee how to cut down trees, and he asks us for another battle. We fought him once in Cerulean City, but we took him out so easily that it wasn't even worth mentioning. I don't know why he wants to fight us again so soon, but Eevee's going to prove to him that we had the better starter. He sends in his Pidgeotto, and we start with the Buzzy Buzz, easily taking it down. He sends his Pikachu in next in a desperate attempt to take Eevee out. But Eevee's prepared. We go for a Sizzly Slide, a new move we learned. It does huge damage and it also burns the opponent. It takes over half of Pikachu's health. and one more of those is going to take it down. It goes for a desperate double kick, and it does barely anything to Eevee. On top of that, the burn does damage to Pikachu. We go for another Sizzly Slide, knowing full well that we'll take it out, and his Pikachu falls as well. His final Pokemon is an Oddish. This thing's going to be really weak against fire types, but we decide to give Nidoking a chance. We send him in, and we can see Tragic's afraid. He didn't know we had such a powerful Pokemon in the back. We go for a Horn attack, and finish off the Oddish. He's shocked once again at how powerful we've grown in just 2 hours. We solve the puzzle at the electric gym in a matter of minutes, and head over to Lieutenant Surge, the 3rd gym leader. I can tell this guy's the real deal. He's nothing like Misty or Brock. I know he's going to be really powerful, but with Nidoking and Eevee behind us, we're going to take this guy down. He starts with his Voltorb, a powerful electric type Pokemon, and we can see he still has 2 more Pokemon in the back. This is really dangerous. We don't even have a powerful move to take this thing down. We're going to have to go for Sizzly Slide. And after a hit takes it really low and burns it, it survives with a Slither. We use a bouncy bubble to recover a small amount of Eevee's HP, and he sends in his Magnemite next. This thing's stronger than it looks, and after one Thundershock, Eevee's really low. A Sizzly Slide has taken it below half, so we go for another one to finish it off. I know his final Pokemon is his ace, but I don't know what it is. We've taken out 2 of his 3 Pokemon, and he doesn't even seem nervous. He sends in his Raichu. This thing's really powerful. It evolves from the Pikachus we've fought before, and after one Sizzly Slide, we don't even do half. We do set up the burn, but with one Thunderbolt, Eevee struck back. He runs back to me, and it's time to send in Nidoking. If we can just hold on, burn should get the Raichu down to low health, and Nidoking can finish it off. Eevee's battered and won't be able to fight again, and our next strongest Pokemon after Nidoking is a Pidgeotto, weak to electric types. Luckily, Nidoking's really powerful, and after a Horn attack, we brought Raichu down to the Orange. The burn did even more damage, and it seems Raichu can't do really anything to Nidoking. Another Horn attack is enough to bring the Raichu down to a tiny Slither, and with the burn, Raichu fell. I could tell Lieutenant Surge was angry, but I took the badge and moved on. We caught another Nidoran, a female one this time, that evolved into a Nidoqueen, but we won't be using it yet. On the way to the Dark Tunnel, we were suddenly ambushed by more Team Rocket grunts. Out of nowhere, a lady appeared and offered to help us fight the Team Rocket grunts. We didn't know who she was at the time, but we were glad she showed up when she did. She agreed to take on 3 of them, and at our current strength, we were only able to take on 1. Eevee was eager to fight after his loss against the Raichu, and as we sent him in, he absolutely destroyed the Raticate. After taking him down, it seems that our new ally had taken out the other 3 in the same amount of time. She admitted to being Lorelei of the Elite Four, a trainer we'd have to fight later if we wanted to become the champion. It was humbling to see just a fraction of her power in action. I don't know if we're going to be strong enough to take her on, but all we can do for now is train and push forward. Eevee had been taught a new ability allowing him to light up the Dark Tunnel, and it became the Rock Tunnel. When inside, we caught a few more Pokemon to add to the Pokédex. It was getting pretty full, but one thing was bothering me. I'd only ever heard of 149 Pokemon. The 3 legendary birds, Articuno, Moltres and Zapdos, seemed to be the end, but the Pokédex read 150. My dad's letter also mentioned 150th Pokemon. I don't know what it could be. After evolving the Magikarp we got earlier into a Gyarados, we made our way through the Rock Tunnel and came out the other side in Lavender Town. This place was home of the Pokemon Tower, a place where all Pokemon's souls go to rest. As we arrived, we saw a Cubone run inside. Tragic was there too, and it seems he wanted us to embarrass him again. He sent in the same Pokemon that he'd been using before, except now his Oddish was a Gloom. We easily took him out, and it seems that we're growing at a much quicker rate than he is. These battles are a good opportunity to train, and as we make our way to the top of the tower, we're suddenly stopped by a gigantic ghost. I can tell Eevee's nervous, and we decide to come back later. As we head through the next route, we find evolution stones, and we run into the man that taught Eevee moves before. He's told us he's got some new moves for Eevee, and we teach it Glitzy Glow, a psychic type move that also sets up light screen when we use it. Eevee seemed happy with its moveset, and he didn't want to change anything else. Whilst in the next town, we made our way to the department store and bought some more evolution stones. This will help us fill out the Pokédex later. We also went to the game corner, where we saw another Team Rocket grunt. He was hiding a switch behind a poster, and when we pressed it, a door opened. As we went over to the door, we overheard the Team Rocket grunts from before talking about the secret hideout. It wasn't on our list, but I think our dad would be proud to know that we'd taken down Team Rocket in the process. I'd heard about the terrible things these thugs had done by the locals, and it was time I put a stop to it. After heading through a maze of tunnels that seemed to go on forever below, we finally got to the bottom. This absolute muppet decided to throw the key up onto the roof, as if I didn't have a Pokemon that could just climb up and get it for me. What an idiot. Eevee grabbed the key, and as we made our way to the final room, we were met by a Team Rocket admin. This guy wasn't like the other grunts, he was much stronger, and he started by throwing in his Weezing. I decided to use Nidoking against this, and we started with a Thunderbolt, a new move that I taught Nidoking after the electric gym. We managed to get the paralysis off, and after another 2 Thunderbolts, we were able to take the Weezing down with ease. Nidoking was left pretty weak after the fight with Weezing, and he wasn't going to be able to take on the Golbat, even though he had a super effective move in Thunderbolt. I decided to keep Nidoking in just in case we outsped with a Thunderbolt, but unfortunately, we didn't. Nidoking fell to a crunch, and before I could grab any other Pokeballs, Eevee jumped in. He was paralysed and low on health, but he wanted to finish this Golbat off. He tried to go for a Buzzy Buzz, but the paralysis was too much. He broke through the paralysis next turn, but after a powerful air slash, he had to retreat. I told him to leave it to Arcanine, and I sent Arcanine in. Golbat didn't stand a chance against Arcanine, and we managed to finish it off, defeating the admin. After taking down Team Rocket, it was time for the grass gym. In order to enter, this girl wanted to see a cute Pokemon, so I showed her the cutest one I have, Nidoking. She agreed it was cute, and as I made my way through the gym, we met the new gym leader. This one wasn't like the others. She had a strange peacefulness about her. She even fell asleep while talking to us. I didn't see how this trainer could be strong. I was about to find out. She sent in her Tangler first, and I decided to lead with Eevee. The plan was to use Glitzy Glow and Sizzly Slide to take out her whole team, but after putting Eevee asleep I had to switch to Arcanine. He took down the Tangler with an Ember, and next up was her Weeping Bell. Arcanine stayed in for this fight, as Eevee was still asleep. Ember wasn't doing too much, and I knew we needed to get a more powerful Fire-type move for Arcanine later, but we couldn't deal with that now. He got hit with a Poison Jab, and after being poisoned and taking damage, he was left with just 5 HP. Another Ember wasn't enough to take out the Weeping Bell, and after another Poison Jab, Arcanine fell too. It was up to Nidoking now. I sent him in, and with a Horn attack, he finished off the Weeping Bell. Erica didn't look phased, she still had her ace, her Vileplume. Nidoking tried to do some damage with Thrash, but it didn't do very much, and with Erica using Mega Drain, Nidoking's health was getting low. Vileplume was also healing every turn, and Nidoking didn't stand much of a chance. After Nidoking fell to a Moonblast, we decided to use a team member we hadn't used in a while, Pidgeotto, the same Pidgey we caught at the start of the day. With its super effective flying type moves, an Air Slash took Vileplume low. It retaliated with a Moonblast, but it wasn't enough to take Pidgeotto out, and with his good speed stat, he managed to take the Vileplume down next turn. This means we took out Erica, and Eevee was still fast asleep. After healing at the Pokemon Center, we gave this guard a succulent drink, and he allowed us to pass. In the next town, we took on the unofficial gym, the Karate Dojo. The leader had agreed to give us one of his ace Pokemon if we managed to take him out in a fight. It was a 1v1, Eevee versus his Poliwrath. Eevee had usually looked afraid up against much bigger Pokemon before. Something had changed, he was getting more confident. After a Buzzy Buzz paralysed the Poliwrath, it went for a submission which would do huge damage, but he managed to miss. We went for another Buzzy Buzz next turn, and the Poliwrath was fully paralysed. One more Buzzy Buzz took the Poliwrath down, and he didn't even get a chance to attack us. The Karate Master was so impressed, he allowed us to take a Hitmonlee with us. And that's one more Pokemon added to the Pokédex. We were unable to fight the Psychic-type gym due to some Team Rocket shenanigans, so we head back to Lavender Town. We freed the spirit of the ghost inside, which was actually the mother of the Cubone we saw before, It decided it would go with Tragic, and he was going to train it up to be a stronger Pokemon. It seems he was actually becoming a real trainer like us now. After defeating some more Team Rocket grunts at the top of the Pokemon Tower, we saved this guy, Mr. Fuji, and he gave us a Poke Flute. This allowed us to wake the Snorlax that was sleeping, blocking our path. We managed to catch it and add it to the Pokédex. We then made our way to Fuchsia City, where we could find the Pokemon Go Park. It was here that I was able to contact a friend in a faraway land, and he sent me all the Pokemon I was unable to attain. Trade evolutions like this Golem, an Alakazam and a Gengar, and the other fossil that I wasn't able to get at Mount Moon. The next gym leader was a ninja. Finally, someone who actually looked like a powerful trainer. I checked my watch, and at 6 hours and 18 minutes, we were making good progress. He started with his wheezing. We fought a lot of these before, and Eevee was ready. What we didn't expect was for it to use Explosion and sacrifice itself. I've never seen a trainer fight like this, and I didn't know what to expect next. It did huge damage to Eevee, and we were really unprepared for that. He sent in a Muck next. It seems he's using poison types. We went for a Sizzly Slide to get the burn off, and he retaliated with a Sludge Bomb. This did really minor damage to Eevee, but left him poisoned and at red HP. This was really bad. Eevee was not ready, but he managed to break through the poison. On top of that, Muck took damage from the burn. We went for a Bouncy Bubble next turn to try and heal, but it barely did anything. Eevee was in trouble now, as the Muck went for another Sludge Bomb. I shouted for him to move, and he dodged it just in time. Next time we went for another Bouncy Bubble, just to try and get some health back. This Muck was really dangerous, and we knew its Sludge Bomb was going to hit eventually. All we could do was try and recover enough health to survive it. The Sludge Bomb connected next turn, but it didn't poison. We managed to heal again, and Muck was on the red health as well now. It looks like Eevee could actually win this fight. He connected another Sludge Bomb, this time doing more damage than before. It was too much for Eevee, and I told him to come back. Nidoking went up next, and he tried using Double Kick, but it just went through the Muck. Did barely any damage. Luckily, the Muck just retaliated with a Moonblast, doing barely anything to Nidoking, and the burn managed to finish it off. That thing was dangerous, and Koga still has Pokemon. He sent in his Venomoth next, and there's not a whole lot we can do against this thing. We went for a powerful Psychic next turn, and absolutely obliterated Nidoking. We sent in Arcanine, since Fire type's going to be super effective, but a Sludge Bomb did huge damage, and Arcanine still only has Ember as his move. I decided to revive Eevee, since he was our only option. This Venomoth was just too strong for our other Pokemon. Arcanine fell to a Sludge Bomb next turn, and I sent in Venusaur. I know Venusaur couldn't do much to this, but at least we could use a Super Potion to heal Eevee up even more. This way I could send Eevee back in after, and we could at least try and set up a Leech Seed with Venusaur. The Venomoth went for a super effective Psychic next turn, and nearly took Venusaur out in one hit. We managed to get the Leech Seed off, but it's looking like Venusaur's going to go down next turn. Leech Seed allows us to recover just a small amount of HP, but it'll carry over onto Eevee's turn. Psychic hits Venusaur again, and he falls. It's all up to Eevee now, as he jumps back into the fight. He knows the team's in tatters now, and it's up to him. Goes for a Sizzly Slide, taking the Venomoth down to the red, and setting up the burn. Venomoth manages to get off a Sludge Bomb next turn, but it doesn't do too much to Eevee. It does, however, get the poison off, and Leech Seed allows us to recover a little bit of health, and taking what little bit of health Venomoth had left. This means he's down to his last Pokemon, and it's going to be a Golbat. We've fought a load of these before, and Eevee goes for a Buzzy Buzz. It doesn't quite do half health, and the Golbat flies up where Eevee can't hit it, and this gives us a small window of opportunity. I quickly rummage through my bag and grab a Super Potion. We've got to keep Eevee alive. The only Pokemon left is Gyarados, and I don't think he's strong enough to take down this Golbat. Eevee's health gets back up into the high green as the Golbat swoops down. I tell Eevee to move, and he jumps out of the way just in time. Eevee's already charging up a Buzzy Buzz before I give the call, and as the words leave my mouth, the electricity hit the Golbat, taking it down. Koga was shocked, but he understood. We'd won. After returning some gold teeth we found to the Warden, he teaches Eevee how to move big blocks, and as we travel up through what used to be the cycle road, we see a sparkle in the bushes. It couldn't be, could it? It's a shiny Rattata. We'd actually found a shiny Pokemon, and this early in the day. Incredible. I still can't throw, but after I finally connect an Ultra Ball, we managed to catch it, and that's one more thing ticked off the list. After adding the shiny Rattata to our team, we head over to the Sylph Company, where Team Rocket are causing problems. We meet Blue again, and he tells us he wants to test our skills. Eevee's going to try and take him down on his own, and after 2 Sizzly slides, his Executor falls. Up next is a Pokemon that I planned to have on my team. Eevee had other plans. He took the Charizard down with 2 Buzzy Buzzes, and Blue was seriously impressed. He didn't need to use any more of his Pokemon. He'd already decided we were strong enough. After defeating grunt after grunt, we saved an employee of the Sylph Company, and he gifted us a Lapras. At the top of the Sylph Company, we meet Team Rocket's boss, Giovanni. This guy's seriously powerful. We can see in his face that he's not messing around. He's not happy that we've been defeating his grunts, and he sends in his Persian. The scared Eevee we met earlier in the day is nowhere to be found. Our new brave one jumps into battle. A Buzzy Buzz takes the Persian just above half health and paralyzes it. It manages to stay paralyzed that turn, and this is a great start. We go for a Glitzy Glow next turn, and Eevee's nearly taken this Persian down. It retaliates with a slash, but Eevee moves out of the way just in time, only taking a small amount of damage. He hits a Glitzy Glow next turn, and Giovanni's Persian is already taken down. Giovanni sends in a Rhyhorn next, and it may as well be a Pokemon Center, since Eevee uses it to fully heal. Rhyhorn falls, and Giovanni's only got 1 Pokemon left to fight. He sends in his Nidoqueen, and this thing means business. We go for a Glitzy Glow, doing a huge amount of damage to it, but it retaliates just after with a Body Slam, leaving Eevee paralysed. Luckily, it didn't do very much damage, and the next turn, we go for another Glitzy Glow. He manages to outspeed us this time, and hits the Body Slam, doing quite a bit of damage. Glitzy Glow hits next, and leaves the Nidoqueen with just a slither of health. Eevee manages to break through the paralysis. The next turn we go for a Bouncy Bubble to finish it off. We've managed to take Giovanni down, and with a slight grin, he congratulates us and leaves. Tell him to leave the people of Kanto alone, but he just ignores us as he walks away. The president of the Sylph Company thanks us for beating Giovanni and gives us a Master Ball, a prototype that we've never heard of before, but supposedly catches any Pokemon. Another member of the Sylph Co gives us a Porygon, and we manage to evolve our shiny Rattata into a Raticate. This thing's going to join our team, and we're going to take it all the way to the Pokemon League. With the Team Rocket grunts gone, we can go into the Psychic Gym now. I've been warned about the gym leader here. People say she's possessed by an evil spirit, but I don't believe in those kind of things. We beat all of the gym trainers, and as we approach the gym leader, she has a strange way about her. Could the rumours be true? Doesn't matter, she's in our way and we need her gym badge. The Pokeballs float in front of her, glowing with purple energy. Mr. Mime bursts from the first one, and Eevee jumps into battle. Eevee decides to go for a Sizzly Slide to set up the burn, without me even saying anything. We're in sync now. He knows what I'm thinking. Mr. Mime sets up defences, but Eevee just breaks through them with Sizzly Slide, taking the Mr. Mime down. Sabrina sends in her next Pokemon, a Slowbro, and Eevee starts using Buzzy Buzz to try and take it out. He goes for a Sizzly Slide to see if it'll do more damage, but it doesn't, and after a Psychic, Eevee's defeated. Comes back to me, and I tell him to trust our teammates as I send in Raticate. Raticate doesn't have the best stats, but he does have Crunch, a super effective move. It takes the Slowbro really low with a critical hit. It also lowers its defense, as it goes for a Surf. It hits Raticate all the way down to the low orange, and he goes for a Crunch next turn, taking the Slowbro down. She sent in her Jinx next, and Raticate's really low. There's not a whole lot he can do here, so he just tanks his Psychic and comes back. Next up, we sent in Gyarados, a Pokemon we hadn't used very much in our journey, but he was going to be useful now. He knew Dark Pulse, a move that would be super effective against Sabrina's Psychic types, and after it missed a Lovely Kiss, Dark Pulse hits, but it doesn't do anywhere near as much damage as we were hoping. I decided to revive Eevee, since he was going to be our best bet in this fight. and after Jinx takes out Gyarados, I send in Arcanine, who now knows Flamethrower. This will be super effective against the Ice-type Jinx, but it lands its lovely kiss next turn and puts Arcanine to sleep. After a few more turns, Arcanine wakes up and lands another Flamethrower, taking out the Jinx. Sabrina only has one Pokemon left, but it's an extremely powerful one, an Alakazam. It takes out Arcanine with one Psychic, and it's time for Eevee to come back in. We don't have a super effective move we could use against this thing, and as it goes for a Psychic doing huge damage to Eevee, we use a Sizzly Slide to set up the burn. It actually does a huge amount of damage, which we weren't really expecting, but we're not going to complain. Eevee gets hit with another Psychic next turn, taking him into the low red. With one more Sizzly Slide, he knocks the Alakazam back. It stands still for a second, and then hits the floor. We've defeated Sabrina, and got the 6th gym badge. After surfing across the sea, and catching a few more Pokemon, we reach the Seafoam Islands. There's a strange chill in the air here. Could it be? Could we have stumbled upon the hideout of the Ice-type legendary bird? As we venture deeper into the cave, ice starts to form on the sides of our cheeks. As we reach the bottom, we see it. Articuno, the legendary bird of ice. We check our watch, and at 9 hours and 4 minutes, it's time to catch this thing. If we can catch Articuno, this will be an absolute powerhouse for the team. We send in Eevee, and after a fierce battle, he finishes it off with a sizzling slide. The Articuno lands from its flight, and with just a split-second opening, I launch an Ultra Ball. It connected. The Articuno falls inside. It rolls once, twice, a third time, and as the stars appear, I realise we've done it. We've caught Articuno. I decide to check the Pokédex at this point, and it seems we've caught 95 of the 150 Pokemon. I still don't know what the final Pokemon will be, but with Articuno on our side, I believe we can do anything now. I decide to break up the team at this point as I add some weaker Pokemon to the team that I need to evolve. This helped us further fill the Pokédex, and as we reached Cinnabar Island, I went to the lab and revived the fossils. The gym was locked and I was told the key was in the mansion next door, but as I went in there, I found a chamber. It seems there was a Pokemon in there once. Whatever Pokemon was in there, it looked almost human. Could that have been the 150th Pokemon I was searching for? After finding the secret key, I head over to the fire gym. In order to face Blaine, I had to take a quiz and answer 5 questions correctly. After that, he was happy to fight me. He sent in a Magma first, and Eevee went in. Blaine uses only fire types, and Bouncy Bubble recovers Eevee's HP, so the plan was to just spam Bouncy Bubble and try and take out his whole team, while simultaneously keeping our health up. Eevee did a fantastic job as he took the Magmar down in 2 hits. This was a great start, but Blaine still had 3 other Pokemon to take on. The Magmar fell, and his next Pokemon was a Rapidash. 2 more Bouncy Bubbles took the Rapidash down too, and another 2 took down his Arcanine. 2 more finished off his Ninetales, and with that, Blaine was defeated. After a bit more surfing, we arrived back in our hometown, Pallet. We'd done a full circle of Kanto, and as we passed through the place where we first met Eevee, we were a different team now, a stronger team. Eevee was no longer afraid. In Viridian City, we took on the last gym, and as we approached the gym leader, it was Giovanni. It couldn't be. Gym leaders were supposed to look after people. They were supposed to support us, not be the leader of a criminal organisation. We couldn't let him get away with this. But we needed our 8th gym badge if we were going to become the champion, so we challenged him to a gym battle. He agrees that if we win this battle, he'll leave Kanto and never come back, disbanding Team Rocket. Eevee knows the gravity of this fight, and he jumps straight in against the Doug trio. The Bouncy Bubble should be able to take this thing out in 1 hit, but it managed to outspeed and hit Eevee with an Earthquake, doing huge damage. Bouncy Bubble connected next, and did less than we were expecting. Eevee healed up and hit another Bouncy Bubble next turn, taking out the Doug trio and getting back up to full health. Giovanni sent in his Nidoking next, and with 1 Glitzy Glow, we took it close to half health. It also set up a light screen, meaning special attacks wouldn't do quite as much damage. He tried to hit us with a 1-hit KO move, Horn Drill, but missed. Eevee used the Glitzy Glow next turn, taking it all the way down to the red. Nidoking retaliated with an Earthquake. Eevee took it well, but I could tell that hurt. He goes for a Bouncy Bubble next turn to heal up a little bit, and finishes off the Nidoking. Sends in his Pokemon Center next, and Eevee gets to full health with a Bouncy Bubble. His last Pokemon's a Nidoqueen, and with one Glitzy Glow, we take about a third of its health. He hit back with an Earthquake, and did about a third of Eevee's health as well. It was going to be a back and forth, and it was a matter of who could hit first. Eevee hit another Glitzy Glow, taking it down to the low orange, and Nidoqueen hit another Earthquake, getting Eevee down into the low orange too. Eevee understood how high the stakes were for this fight, and as he went for one more Glitzy Glow, he smashed the Nidoqueen back, and with that, Giovanni was defeated, and Team Rocket disbanded. Giovanni gave a small smirk, and walked away, never to be seen again. Before heading to the Pokemon League, I knew I had to go to the power plant. There were rumours that Zapdos was here, and as I reached the bottom, I found it. The power plant had been abandoned for years. Huge electrical surges had become common, and it was too dangerous to work. It turns out Zapdos was responsible for that, and as he wiped out my entire team bar one Pokemon, the burn finished him off. I took my opportunity to throw an Ultra Ball, and the first one I threw caught the Zapdos. Outside, I caught a Dratini as well. This Pokemon's going to be really useful for the team, so I added him. After checking my watch, I knew I had plenty of time, so I headed around Kanto region, catching a lot of the Pokemon that I hadn't caught before, and evolving some of the team members that still needed to evolve. On my way to Victory Road at the badge gates, I caught a few more Pokemon that I still needed, and I evolved my Dratini into a Dragonair. It was still a low level and quite weak, but I kept it on the team. Inside Victory Road, we caught Hitmonchan, the other Pokemon we could have chosen at the fighting dojo. Now we had both. As we got deeper into the cave, it got warmer, and as the heat got too intense, we found Moltres. I threw Pokeball after Pokeball after Pokeball, but Moltres just wouldn't stay inside. Until finally, after half an hour of trying to catch it, it stayed inside an Ultra Ball. With that, we had all three of the legendary birds on our side, and the Pokemon League stood no chance. We exited Victory Road and reached the Indigo Plateau. It was time to take on the league and become champion. We'd been a trainer for 13 hours and 23 minutes and caught 127 Pokemon and got all 8 gym badges. And now, as we entered the Elite Four, Lorelei was the first one to meet us. Her power seemed so far from us just hours ago, but Eevee was ready. She sent in her Dewgong, and I sent in Eevee. She may be an Ice-type trainer, but a lot of her team members have the Water-type too, so electric moves are going to be super useful against her. Eevee went for a Buzzy Buzz first turn. He didn't quite do half of Dewgong's health. He did manage to paralyze though. The Dewgong hits back with a Waterfall, and Eevee took a small amount of damage. Another Buzzy Buzz next turn took the Dewgong down into the red, and another Waterfall did basically nothing to Eevee. Eevee was seriously strong now, and after another Buzzy Buzz, he took the Dewgong down. Next up, Lorelei sends in her Jinx. Eevee went for another Buzzy Buzz first turn to get the paralysis off, and it didn't do very much damage. But next turn, we can go for a Sizzly Slide. The Jinx stayed fully paralysed that turn, and the Sizzly Slide next turn took it out with ease. With Jinx down, she's only got 3 Pokemon left. She sent in her Cloyster next, and Eevee went for a Buzzy Buzz again. This did way more damage than it did to our other Pokemon, and took it out in one hit. Couldn't believe how much Eevee had grown. Next up was her Lapras, the Pokemon she used to take out the Team Rocket grunts earlier. A Buzzy Buzz did about a third of its health, and managed to get the paralysis off. It retaliated with a strong Blizzard, which did huge damage to Eevee. We weren't sure we could take another one, but a Buzzy Buzz took it down to the low orange. It went for Hydro Pump instead, and it hit Eevee hard. Eevee was forced to retreat, but we sent in Zapdos next to finish the job. The strong electric type moves should be more than enough to finish Lorelei off, but we went for a Thunderbolt, taking the Lapras down and outspeeding. Her final Pokemon was a Slowbro. This was perfect since it's weak to electric type moves. Zapdos went for another Thunderbolt and took over half of its health. It retaliated with a Psychic, but it wasn't even close to enough to take Zapdos down. One more Thunderbolt took out the Slowbro, and that was the first of the 4 Elite Four members taken down. Lorelei was impressed with how much we'd grown in just a few hours, and next up was Bruno. This guy reminded me of Brock, but unlike our fight with Brock before, Eevee wasn't afraid of this Onix. He leaped straight into battle, and with one bouncy bubble, he took the Onix down. That went a lot better than last time he fought one. The Onix fell to the floor with a thud, and returned to its Pokeball. Bruno sent in a Poliwrath next, and Eevee's had a lot of experience taking these things down. He went for a Buzzy Buzz, and as the Poliwrath hit back with a super effective superpower, Eevee was really low on health. He hit another Buzzy Buzz next turn, taking the Poliwrath down all the way to the red, and it was paralysed. One more Buzzy Buzz took it out, and Bruno was on to his next Pokemon. This one was a Machamp. Eevee had never fought anything like this before, so we decided to go for a Sizzly Slide to get the burn off and lower its attack stat. It didn't do a huge amount of damage, but at least the burn will chip every turn. Eevee got hit with a really powerful move and had to retreat. It was time to send in our next Pokemon. This time, we used Articuno. Its Ice Beam should do huge damage to this Machamp, and it took it down to nearly half of what it had left. Burn did a little bit of chip, meaning that one more Ice Beam would be enough to take it out. Next, Bruno sent in his Hitmonlee, another powerful fighting type Pokemon. Articuno began charging another Ice Beam when out of nowhere, Hitmonlee collected a Rock Slide, which knocked Articuno out. This was bad. Both Zapdos and Moltres are weak to Rock type moves. We sent Zapdos in, and with one Drill Beak, it took the Hitmonlee really low. It retaliated with a Rock Slide, nearly knocking Zapdos out in one hit, but one more Drill Peck was enough to take the Hitmonlee down. He sent Hitmonchan in next, and Zapdos went for another Drill Peck. Took the Hitmonchan down to the low orange, but with an Ice Punch, he finished Zapdos off too. That's 2 legendary birds in one fight. It's time to send in Moltres, and hopefully we can finish it off. We flew up high, and as it went for a Thunder Punch, it completely missed. Moltres landed the fly next turn, knocking the Hitmonchan to the floor and finishing the fight. Bruno was really tough. Next up was Agatha. Agatha was an old friend of Professor Oak's, and she specialised in Ghost-type Pokemon. We send Eevee in, and Arbok up first. One Glitzy Glow was enough to take it just above half health, and set up a light screen. The Arbok retaliated with a Glare, but Eevee moved out the way just in time. He went for a Sizzly Slide next turn to set up a burn. The Arbok then connected its Glare this time, paralysing Eevee. The next turn, it outsped and hit with a Poison Jab. It did basically nothing to Eevee, but Eevee stayed paralysed that turn. He managed to break through after that, and the burn was getting the Arbok really low, so one Bouncy Bubble was enough to finish it off and heal Eevee up a little bit. Next up, Agatha sends in her Gengar, and Eevee stays in. We went for another Glitzy Glow and did huge damage to the Gengar, taking it below half health. It retaliated with a Sludge Bomb, but we know this doesn't do much to Eevee. Luckily, it didn't get poisoned, and with one more Glitzy Glow, we took the Gengar down too. Next up, Agatha's going to send in her Weezing. We stayed in with Eevee again, and went for a Glitzy Glow, taking it below half health. One more was enough to finish it off, and Eevee's absolutely destroying Agatha's team. She sent in one more Gengar. With Eevee at really low health, I decided to use a full restore to bring him back up. I only had one of these, but Eevee was determined to win this fight. The Gengar went for another Sludge Bomb and did barely anything to Eevee, not even poisoning it. One Glitzy Glow took it down to half health, and Gengar went for another Sludge Bomb. We got lucky again and didn't get poisoned. One more Glitzy Glow took the Gengar down, and Agatha only has one more Pokemon left. A Golbat. She sends it in, and we're going to go for Buzzy Buzz to try and take this thing down. We did just over half health and managed to paralyse it. It broke through the paralysis and hit a powerful crunch. It wasn't enough to take Eevee down, and one more Buzzy Buzz took out the Golbat, finishing off Agatha and meaning that only one trainer stands between us and the champion title. Current champion Lance and his Dragonite are the only thing standing in our way, and as we challenge him to a fight, his Dragonite gets prepared for battle. I decided to switch it up for this fight and began with Articuno. The plan was to use an ice type to take down its dragons, but he started with a Seadra. I really wasn't expecting that, and it probably would have been better to start with a Zapdos. Articuno used Fly and did barely anything to the Seadra. I decided to call Articuno back and sent Zapdos in instead. The plan was to use Thunderbolt to take this thing down, and Hydro Pump shouldn't do too much damage. Unfortunately, it did. It nearly took half of Zapdos' health, but with one Thunderbolt next turn, the Seadra fell. That was not great, but it wasn't bad either. He sent in Aerodactyl next, and we decided to switch to Dragonair. We knew Dragonair couldn't do much in this fight, and by getting taken out in this way, we could get a clean switch into Eevee. Eevee jumped back into battle, and as the Aerodactyl went for a Rock Slide, Eevee moved out the way just in time, going for a Bouncy Bubble straight after. It hit hard and took half of the Aerodactyl's health. Next turn, it connected with its Rock Slide, doing huge damage to Eevee, but one more Bouncy Bubble was more than enough to take it out, and gave Eevee a decent chunk of its health back. We'd taken out 2 of Lance's Pokémon, and he'd only taken 1 of ours. This was going really well, and his next Pokémon was a Gyarados. Eevee took it down in 1 hit with a Buzzy Buzz. He landed a critical hit, but I think Eevee would have taken it out anyway. Lance then gets desperate and sends in his Charizard. As a Dragon Pulse does barely anything, 2 Buzzy Buzz nearly take the Charizard down. He only had a slither of health left, and in an act of desperation, he went for a Hyper Beam. Eevee absolutely tanked it, and I couldn't believe how far he'd come. One more Bouncy Bubble finished off the Charizard, and the only thing left standing in our way was Lance's signature Pokémon, Dragonite. I knew Eevee could take this thing down. After a back and forth, neither Pokémon doing much damage to the other, Dragonite gets a lucky hit, finishing Eevee off. At least that's what I thought. Eevee held on with just 1 HP, landing another Sizzly Slide. The next turn, Dragonite hits another Outrage, but Eevee can't hang on for this one. As a tear flies from the side of its cheek, I know how much it wanted to win that fight, but I told it to trust the rest of the team as I sent Raticate in. One Thunderbolt takes out the Dragonite and finishes off Lance. He's impressed, but tells me I'm not champion yet. It seems someone had already beaten him just before me. It was tragic. No one had ever beat the league in just 1 day before, and today, 2 people had done it. It seems Tragic was inspired by my mission and came here first. We challenged him to a battle for the title and sent Zapdos in. He sent in his Super Saiyan Goku, and we had the type advantage. Zapdos went for a Thunderbolt, doing huge damage to the Pidgeot as it missed the Heat Wave. Tragic laughed and said, "You got lucky with that one." He used the Heat Wave again next turn and did huge damage to the Zapdos. We retaliate with another Thunderbolt and took the Pidgeot down. His next Pokemon was a Rapidash. It seems he got inspired by Blaine, as he uses Flare Blitz just like Blaine did. It got damaged by the recoil and Zapdos went for a Thunder. We actually connected, and it did huge damage to the Rapidash, but it wasn't quite enough to take it down. It went for a quick attack next turn and took down Zapdos. I was quite impressed with how much Tragic had grown in just 1 day, but I wasn't going to let him win. I sent in Moltres as he went for another Flare Blitz, damaging himself again. Moltres flew up high, and the Rapidash missed next turn. This also meant that it didn't take any damage from recoil, but Fly was more than enough to finish it off. His Rapidash fell, and next up, he sent in his starter, Raichu. Moltres went for a Flamethrower, and did just under half of its health. It retaliated with a Thunder, and did huge damage to Moltres, taking it out in 1 hit. With 2 of the legendary birds down, I sent in my shiny Raticate to try and finish off the Raichu before I sent in Articuno. It missed the Thunder, and next turn Raticate hit an Ice Beam. It did basically nothing. As he missed another Thunder, we went for a Hyper Fang. That did way more. He actually connected his 3rd Thunder, and with that, Raticate fell in just 1 hit too. Before I could reach for Articuno's Pokeball, Eevee jumped into the battle. He went for a Glitzy Glow without me even saying anything, and took the Raichu down. Eevee looked at me, and I nodded. Tragic sent in his Vileplume, and with 2 more Glitzy Glows and 1 Sizzly Slide, Eevee took it down with ease. Tragic asked me if I remembered the Cubone from the Pokemon Tower as he threw in his new Marowak. I can't believe he's trained this thing up so much in such a little time. We went for a bouncy bubble and took about half of its health. It was hitting hard with Brick Break, and Eevee couldn't really take too many more of those. Eevee connected another bouncy bubble and did huge damage to the Marowak. It only had a sliver left, and as it connected another Brick Break, Eevee went down into the orange. One more bouncy bubble was more than enough to finish off the Marowak, and it seems Tragic only has one Pokemon left. This is the final Pokemon to take down before becoming the champion, and it's a Slowbro. Eevee went for a Glitzy Glow to set up the light screen, and just like he has for his entire career, Tragic copies me and goes for a light screen. Eevee knew he was going to struggle to do damage to this thing, so he decided to go for a Sizzly Slide to set up the burn. The Slowbro was taking basically no damage as it went for a Surf, hitting Eevee back in retaliation. It didn't really do much either, and this just started to become a battle of attrition. One move after another did basically no damage, and Eevee was getting really low on health. He started using Bouncy Bubble just to try and get some health back, but after a few more hits, it wasn't enough. The Slowbro connected a Psychic and took Eevee down to just 10 HP. The light screen had wore off at this point, and Eevee decided to set up a Glitzy Glow to set up one more light screen, as the Slowbro used the Psychic to finish him off. Eevee held on with just 1 HP and went for another Bouncy Bubble. It was looking like he could actually win this fight as he landed a critical hit. He even healed up a little bit from Bouncy Bubble. As the Slowbro connected one more Surf, it was just too much for Eevee to handle. I told him to come back since Articuno was still in the back, and we sent Articuno out. The Slowbro proved too powerful for Articuno too, as a Psychic took him down, and all that was left was our Dragonair. I sent in Dragonite, and as I did, Eevee edged closer to my backpack, which was now on the floor. He nudged it with his nose and knocked out a revive. I understood, Eevee wanted to finish this, so I used Dragonair's turn to revive him, and next turn I sent him back in. One Glitzy Glow took the Slowbro really low, and as Eevee dodged the final attack, the burn finished the Slowbro off. Tragic was no longer shocked by our skill and just smiled when we beat him. With that, we ticked Become the Champion off of our dad's list, and Professor Oak came in to congratulate us. He explained we had to register our team into the Hall of Fame in order to become the true champion, so that's exactly what we did. We entered Zapdos, Raticate, Dragonair, Moltres, Articuno, and of course Eevee, into the Hall of Fame. With the title of champion and a shiny Pokemon on our team, all that was left was to raise Eevee to level 100 and finish the Pokédex. I knew where the final Pokemon were for the Pokédex for us to finish it, all except for one, the 150th Pokemon, the Pokemon that seemed to have broken out of that chamber in the Pokemon Mansion. As I headed around the map, catching the last Pokemon for my Pokédex, and catching chances to level up Eevee, and even finding a second shiny Pokemon in the Cerulean Cave, I was at my wit's end. I didn't know where it could be. That's when I remembered Tragic saying there was rumours of a really powerful Pokemon deep within Cerulean Cave, far deeper than I'd ever ventured before. As I ran out of Ultra Balls, I returned to the Pokemon League. The Elite Four were now under my command, so I ordered them back for training. I defeated Lorelei, Bruno, Agatha, and Lance once again, with just Eevee alone. After that I spent the money on Ultra Balls and went back to farming chances. If I was going to take on the Pokemon deep within this cave, I needed Eevee to be level 100. After hours of leveling, we finally did it. Eevee had reached level 100, and there was only one thing left to do: catch the final Pokemon. I was sure it was deep within this cave, and as I ventured further in, I found it. It looked almost human, and as I approached, I heard a voice in my head. "So you've come," it said. "Your father told me you would be coming." It wasn't speaking with its mouth, but with its mind. Eevee began to fight. I wasn't giving commands anymore. Eevee was fighting on his own. He knew exactly what I was thinking without me saying anything. "My name is Mewtwo, Pokemon your father helped create in the Pokemon Mansion. When I broke free, your father was collateral damage. and like him, I'll wipe all humans from this earth. Only Pokemon should exist. At that moment, Eevee struck Mewtwo in the chest, and it fell back. I knew this was my chance. As I reached for a Pokeball in my bag, I found the Master Ball, the ball that was given to me by the president of the Sylph Company. Without hesitation, I threw it at Mewtwo. It shook once, twice, 3 times, and with that, I captured Mewtwo. He couldn't hurt anyone else. With Mewtwo caught, my list was complete, and I checked my watch. 20 hours and 55 minutes. We'd done it, and with 3 hours to spare. Thank you so much for watching this video. It took me a really long time to make, so if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video.